China, 1979, a nation on the brink of a population crisis. Fear grips the Communist Party. A population explosion looms. Their solution, the one-child policy, a radical measure to control the burgeoning numbers. Drastic, absolutely. Effective for a while. The policy achieved its goal of curbing population growth. Birth rates plummeted and the population stabilized. But at what cost? Fast forward to today. The unintended consequences of this policy are impossible to ignore. The social fabric of China has been fundamentally altered. China now faces a demographic crisis of epic proportions, a shrinking workforce, a rapidly aging population. The economic implications are staggering. The very fabric of Chinese society is strained. Imagine a generation of only children, now adults responsible for not just their own children, but also their aging parents. The burden is immense. This is the reality for millions of Chinese citizens. The 4-2-1 problem, they call it, one child shouldering the weight of 2 parents and 4 grandparents. The emotional and financial strain is overwhelming. Talk about pressure. This isn't just a personal problem, it's a ticking time bomb for China's future. The societal and economic repercussions are vast. The government eventually reversed the policy, but the damage was done. The echoes of this decision will reverberate for decades to come. The scars are deep and lasting. China's leaders now face an uncomfortable truth. They engineered this crisis. The challenge now is to find a way forward, to heal a nation grappling with the legacy of the one-child policy. China's population is shrinking. Let that sink in for a moment. For decades, the country boasted the world's largest population. Now that's rapidly changing. Birth rates have plummeted. The number of elderly citizens is skyrocketing. This isn't just a statistic, it's a fundamental shift with profound consequences. Imagine a factory floor with fewer and fewer workers. That's the reality facing China's economy. The workforce is aging out and there aren't enough young people to replace them. The shortage of labor is already impacting industries across the board. From manufacturing to technology, the effects are being felt. But the problem goes beyond just filling jobs. A shrinking workforce means less innovation, less productivity, less economic growth. China's dream of becoming a global superpower, this demographic crisis throws a major wrench in those plans. Remember that shrinking workforce? It's about to get hit by a tsunami. A silver tsunami, to be precise. This is the wave of elderly citizens requiring healthcare, pensions, and social services. All of this costs money, a lot of money. China's pension system? Strained. Healthcare system? Overwhelmed. The government is struggling to keep up with the demands of its aging population. Imagine having to support your parents on your salary. Now multiply that by millions. That's the scale of the challenge facing China. The costs of caring for the elderly are staggering. Healthcare expenses are rising faster than a WeChat scammer's hopes and dreams. Pensions are dwindling. The financial burden on families is immense. This isn't just an economic crisis, it's a recipe for social unrest. Filial piety, respect for one's elders. These values have been deeply ingrained in Chinese society for centuries. A cornerstone of Chinese culture where family bonds are held in the highest regard. But in the face of this demographic crisis, even the strongest traditions are tested. The pressures are mounting. Imagine being a young couple in China today. The weight of responsibilities is overwhelming. You're struggling to pay your mortgage, raise your child, and now you're also expected to care for your aging parents. The demands never seem to end. The emotional and financial toll is immense. Every day feels like a battle. Many young couples find themselves sandwiched between caring for their children and their parents. It's a delicate balancing act. Grandparents, once a source of wisdom and support, are now a source of financial strain. The roles have reversed. This is the reality for millions of Chinese families. The stress is palpable. The government encourages families to care for their own, but with limited resources and support, it's a recipe for burnout. The system is stretched thin. The elderly are left feeling like burdens, and the younger generation is left feeling trapped. This isn't sustainable. The cycle of strain continues with no clear end in sight. Remember those whispers of discontent we mentioned? They're getting louder. Imagine spending your life working, contributing to society, only to find your pension shrinking faster than your social circle after a bad karaoke night. This is the reality for many elderly Chinese citizens. Protests, once unthinkable in China, are becoming more common. Elderly citizens are taking to the streets, demanding better social security, affordable healthcare, and a dignified retirement. These protests are a clear sign that the people are unhappy, very unhappy. The government is facing a dilemma: crack down on the protests and risk further unrest, or address the root causes of the crisis and potentially destabilize the entire system. It's a tightrope walk, and one wrong step could have disastrous consequences. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, masters of control, architects of economic miracles, but even the mightiest of dragons can stumble. The elderly crisis threatens the very foundation of the CCP's authority. How can a government that prides itself on stability and prosperity manage a crisis of this magnitude? Censorship, propaganda. These are the CCP's go-to tools, but they can only paper over the cracks for so long. The people are no longer content with empty promises. They see their parents struggling. They fear for their own futures. The CCP's legitimacy is on the line. This is uncharted territory for the party. They built their power on delivering economic growth and national rejuvenation, but how can they maintain control when faced with a problem they themselves created? Section 7. A dragon losing its fire. China's global ambitions at stake. China, the world's factory floor, a rising economic powerhouse. But what happens when that engine of growth starts to sputter? The elderly crisis threatens to derail China's global ambitions. A shrinking workforce means less manufacturing, less innovation, less economic clout. The world has grown accustomed to China's relentless rise. But this demographic time bomb has the potential to change everything. Investors are getting nervous. Global supply chains are feeling the strain. China's dream of supplanting the United States as the world's superpower, it's looking less and less likely. This isn't just a problem for China. It's a problem for the entire world. A weakened China means a less stable global economy. It means less investment in developing countries. Section 8. A call for compassion, reforming for a more humane future. The situation is dire, but it's not hopeless. There is a pressing need for change, and the time to act is now. There's still time for China to change course, to embrace compassion and empathy in its policies and actions, to build a future where its elderly citizens are valued, not forgotten. A future where they are seen as integral members of society. This requires a fundamental shift in thinking, a shift that prioritizes human well-being over mere economic metrics. A recognition that the pursuit of economic growth cannot come at the expense of human dignity. Economic progress should go hand in hand with social progress. The government must act, and act decisively. Policies need to be reformed and new initiatives must be introduced. Invest in social safety nets, reform the pension system to ensure financial security for the elderly, provide affordable healthcare for all, ensure that medical services are accessible and of high quality. Encourage families to care for their elderly, but offer them the support they need to do so without bankrupting themselves. Provide resources and assistance to ease their burden. This isn't just about economics, it's about building a more just and compassionate society. A society that values every individual, regardless of age, one where the elderly are respected for their contributions and cared for with dignity. A society that honors its past while building a brighter future for all. Section 9. The world watches and waits. The stakes couldn't be higher. The world is watching China. Your every move is scrutinized. Your successes celebrated. Your failures magnified. The elderly crisis is not just your problem. It's a global challenge. The world needs a strong and prosperous China, but it also needs a compassionate and responsible one. The decisions you make today will have far-reaching consequences. Will you choose the path of repression and denial? Or will you embrace reform and compassion? The world holds its breath, hoping against hope that you will choose wisely. Because the stakes have never been higher, your actions will reverberate for generations to come, not just within your own borders, but across the globe. Section 10. A crossroads for China. Embrace change or face the consequences. China stands at a crossroads. One path leads to continued economic growth, but at the cost of social unrest and human suffering. The other path, the path less traveled, leads to a more just and compassionate society, but it requires sacrifice and difficult choices. The choice is yours, China. Will you cling to the past, to outdated policies and a worldview that no longer serves you? Or will you embrace the future with all its uncertainties and challenges? The world waits with bated breath. The dragon is at a crossroads. Which path will it choose? The time for half measures is over. The time for bold action is now. The future of China and indeed the world hangs in the balance.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.